Welcome back to Filmmaster Reviews, I'm Adam J. Well, now that I've tortured myself by revisiting all the worst films I saw in 2021, I can reward myself by talking about my favorite films of the last year. Like with my worst list, I'm just gonna warn you, there's gonna be at least one or two controversial opinions right off the bat. Keep in mind though, that it's just my opinion. If you don't like it, I don't care. These are just my favorites of the year. And if you want to share yours, feel free to do so in the comments. Also be advised that I didn't see every film that came out. There was a lot of art house films I missed that kind of broke my heart that I missed them, but I did. I didn't see The Last Duel, I didn't see Spencer, I didn't see Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza. I've heard they're all great. Last Night in Soho, that's another one. I've heard they're all great, but I didn't see them, so sadly you won't find them here. With that said, let's talk about my favorite films of the year after a few honorable mentions. Army of the Dead. I fucking loved this movie. Up until the last 10 minutes. The daughter character and her stupid decisions ruined the ending of this movie for me, to the point where if there is an actual sequel, I hope that stupid bitch dies first. Such a dumb character that destroyed an otherwise great zombie film. I love Snyder's creativity, but I can't get over that one character. If she wasn't in the film, this would not only be on the list, it would be high on the damn list, because everything else is that damn good. Reminiscence. One of the most underrated and misunderstood films to come out in 2021. A great sci-fi noir film with wonderful atmosphere in the spirit of Blade Runner, with great performances from Hugh Jackman and Tandy Newton. Batman: The Long Halloween, Parts 1 and 2. The animation and voice work in this adaptation was wonderful. I mean, it's pristine. However, much like the adaptation of Hush, they just couldn't help but ruin the identity of the killer, completely ignoring the comic's heart as a result. Granted, it was much better than Hush, but still, the changing of the villain was a massive letdown for me. Okay, 3 honorable mentions down, a top 10 list to go. Let's get it done, folks. Yeah, I can see y'all rolling your damn eyes, especially you, Rob. I can see you, man. I see you rolling your damn eyes at me. You know what? I don't care. I unashamedly and unapologetically love this fucking movie. As a longtime follower of the Resident Evil series, as someone who considers it his favorite video game franchise of all time, this was the Resident Evil movie I always wanted. Not perfect, still flawed, but damn impressive nonetheless. Johannes Roberts nailed the atmosphere, he nailed the tone, he nailed the cheesy dialogue, he nailed the sets, he nailed the fan service. And for the most part, he even nailed the characters, Wesker and Leon being really the only two notable exceptions in my opinion. Yes, I know they made Leon an idiot, but he's still the rookie cop who rises to the occasion and saves everyone in the end. Yes, they had Jill have a crush on Wesker in this film, but she's still the cocky badass who puts other people's lives before her own. Yes, they made Wesker more sympathetic in this version, but he's still the asshole who betrays everyone and leaves everyone to die only to get himself killed. Look, in regards to Wesker, I'm sorry, you're not selling a film audience on a shady douche who wears sunglasses at night. Gee, I wonder who the bad guy is. Duh. So yeah, in regards to these characters, yeah, they changed things around, but they kept more than enough of who these characters were at their core, where I can forgive these slight tweaks. Even combining the events of RE1 and RE2 into one film, which I was initially worried about, didn't really bother me because I felt Johannes Roberts struck a nice balance between both of them. I loved the action, I loved the Easter eggs, the look of the Spencer Mansion and the RPD was breathtaking. I loved the dynamic between Chris and Claire. I loved the way the zombies were portrayed, just slowly fucking decaying until they finally become zombies. I loved that. That was a wonderful aesthetic choice. And I even loved the nods to John Carpenter throughout the entire movie. Rami Amell isn't the best actor in the world, but I swear to God, the guy was born to play Chris Redfield. Kaya Scodelario was perfect as Claire. She acts more like Claire from Revelations 2 than she does from the original RE2, but that's fine. For the story they're telling, that's perfectly fine. I feel this movie is not only underrated, but very misunderstood. If I were to compare it to another video game film, I would honestly compare it to Silent Hill. A movie that took some liberties with the material, but managed to honor and respect the spirit of the video games while remaining a great horror film in its own right. For me, that's exactly what this film did. There's a lot you can nitpick about it. Hell, I'll even admit the third act was very rushed. But regardless, this was Resident Evil. For the first time watching a Resident Evil movie, I felt like I was actually watching a Resident Evil movie. And I couldn't be happier. After the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot was unleashed upon the world and snuck up the movie theaters with its damn filth, I never thought I'd see the day where I got another good Ghostbusters movie. That reboot was such a miserable experience that not even the trailers for this reboot were swaying me. However, I am so happy to have been wrong about it. There's still things I didn't care for, the biggest thing being the overuse of old concepts and villains. I also didn't really buy the reasoning for why the original Ghostbusters broke up. That didn't really sit well with me. But this film has so much heart and passion behind it that those few issues I have with the film are very easy to ignore. Jason Reitman did his father proud, not only bring back the things that we loved about the original Ghostbusters, but also making the tone of the film his own. I never thought something like Ghostbusters would work as a drama about family and legacies, but kick me in the balls if this guy didn't prove me wrong. I love the way this movie looks. McKenna Grace's performance is just wonderful. That girl is going places. And the way this honors the memory of Harold Ramis, my god, just let me say this, you are a fucking robot if you don't cry at the end of this movie. Everyone who knows me knows that I love the Saw franchise, and Spiral is easily in my top 3 favorite films of this franchise. This movie took an ingenious spin on the series with great social commentaries about the police force and police brutality. And it was able to get those messages across without beating me over the fucking head every 10 minutes like some other crappy films I can mention. Fuck you, Candyman. Goddamn piece of shit. Chris Rock and Sam Jackson are great in this film. The traps are creative. And even the voice on the tapes, which has garnered a lot of criticism from fans, was effectively creepy despite the fact that it was different. Yeah, it's not Tobin Bell, but who the hell is? I thought this was a great way to bring Saw back after a hiatus. A great story with a great cast and a triumphant return from Darren Lynn Bousman. This man returned to the director's chair, and honestly, it was like he never left. I gotta give Chris Rock a lot of credit though too, because this film was his idea, and he managed to get this team together to execute it flawlessly. It took forever to finally put it off, but John Watts finally made a good Spider-Man movie. He just had to bring in everything that we loved about the previous Spider-Man franchises to make it happen. Admittedly, Spider-Man No Way Home has its fair share of messy moments. There's moments in the plot that don't really make a lot of sense if you think about them for too long, and the way they went about getting all these other franchise villains into the MCU was kinda bullshit. For example, if you have a spell that only brings people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, why is Electro there? He never even met Peter Parker in Amazing Spider-Man 2. He didn't know Peter Parker was Spider-Man. For that matter, why is his personality completely different? Or how does Sandman know that Norman Osborn was the Green Goblin? That was never public knowledge in the Maguire universe. Yeah, there's a ton of shit like that that you can easily pick apart if you know these other movies. I could literally make a top 10 list just for those inconsistencies. Here's a question though. After seeing this movie, after seeing all 3 Spider-Men together in one glorious film, do I give a fuck about any of these things? Not really, no. They are issues, but they are mostly forgivable issues in the grand scheme of things. To me, the ends really did justify the means in that situation. The movie manages to celebrate everything we loved about the previous Spider-Man franchises, while still being a damn good Spider-Man movie in its own right. It gave us a sense of finality and closure for both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and I can't tell you just how great it was to see them all together. It was the most beautiful fucking feeling. Tobey was the Spider-Man of my teen years, Andrew is my favorite Spider-Man, period, and Tom Holland, from an emotional standpoint, has never been better in this role. This film isn't against throwing curveballs and doing some unexpected shit, all of which had the theater roaring. It honestly felt like these writers listened to every complaint that I had against Homecoming and Far From Home and went, you know what, cool, we can fix that. MJ and Peter's relationship is more well-defined. Aunt May is the best she's been in any of these movies. She actually feels like Aunt May instead of a cool older sister. And even Ned Leeds, the character that I constantly wanted to punch in the face in the last 2 films, he got some genuine laughs out of me. He was a surprisingly fun character this time for the most part. I don't know if the writers took writing lessons in between movies, but bravo fucking vo, guys. But honestly, it's Willem Dafoe who truly steals the show in this film. Such an amazing performance, topping his original turn as Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin in every way imaginable. There are moments where he is not only intimidating, but scary as hell. It was great seeing Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx back as well, but Dafoe just outshines everybody. With great humor, great action, stellar performances, and an emotional center, No Way Home represents one of the best films the MCU has to offer. You know, it's getting a bit cliche to say that Disney has done it again, but from the day I watched it, Raya and the Last Dragon managed to easily put itself among my favorite Disney films. Despite its stellar reviews, I don't think this movie is being given enough credit. It's a gorgeous film with some of the best world building and character development I've seen in recent memory. It's a film about how when the chips are down, when times are hard, we need to come together and trust one another instead of just going at each other's throats. Kelly Marie Tran is wonderful in the lead. I already loved this actress in The Last Jedi, but even with just her voice, she sells every scene she's in as Raya. Awkwafina was hilarious and heartwarming as Sisu the Last Dragon, and her back and forth with Raya alone made the film worth it. I don't really think I need to comment on how beautiful the film is, being that it's Disney, but damn was this stunning. Raya and the Last Dragon represents the absolute best that Disney animation had to offer in 2021. Malignant was a film that, not even halfway into it, I absolutely adored. I was in awe at the film's creativity, its soundtrack, its intense acting, and its balls-to-the-wall visuals. James Wan is pretty much a master of horror at this point, having crafted Saw, The Conjuring, and Insidious. Not all of his movies stick the landing, but all of his horror films have a creativity to them that is just on another level. There is a distinct, unique quality to all of his films that I can't help but admire, and Malignant is no exception. I don't want to spoil what the twist is for those who haven't seen it, but let's just say that when it was finally revealed what was going on, my jaw practically dropped to the floor. The character moments in the film are flawless. Annabelle Wallis's performance was perfect, which is weird to say given how bad she was in both Annabelle and The Mummy. I guess we can just chalk all those other performances up to bad direction, because she was damn near flawless here. This is a horror film that doesn't necessarily need a sequel, but if there is one with Wan at the helm, my ass will be in the seat. Oh yeah, how dare I put Black Widow above Spider-Man No Way Home? Adam, are you crazy? Heresy, I say. I'm sorry, but as I said, as much as I love No Way Home, it wasn't without a shit ton of problems. Aside from one moment toward the end, I have absolutely no problems with Black Widow. I've seen so many reviews calling this low-tier Marvel. Hell, I've seen this on a lot of people's worst of lists for this year. I adamantly disagree with all of this. This was the type of action spy thriller that I wanted out of a Black Widow movie. A film with the action, the performances, and the heart that we deserved from the get-go. The most bullshit argument I keep hearing about this movie is that there are no stakes for the hero because we know she dies in Endgame. You knew that going into this movie, guys. You knew that already. It doesn't matter when a film comes out, all that matters is that the movie is good. Scarlett Johansson finally got her time to shine, and while I loved Florence Pugh as Yelena, I completely disagree with the assessment that she stole the movie from Scarlett. Make no mistake, this was Scarlett's movie. The Yelena character was just a bonus, and the relationship between Natasha and her surrogate family was the very heart of the film. I loved these characters. David Harbour was hilarious, and Rachel Weisz was her normal badass self. Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh had wonderful chemistry in this movie. The action was awesome, the film looked gorgeous. Kate Shortland directed the shit out of this movie. Now, I know a lot of people hated Taskmaster, but I loved Taskmaster in this. I love how the character was just a silent assassin, like a fucking Terminator that just doesn't stop. And it was good to see one of my favorite Bond girls being badass again. Oh, but Adam, Taskmaster is nothing like the comics. You don't know what you're talking about. Nothing like the comics. Okay, I accept your argument. So, with that said, let's look back at the MCU villains and see who was actually accurate to the comics. All right, let's list them off here. Okay, yeah, let's go. We had Loki. And Loki. And Loki. And, yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Thanos, Ego, Vulture, Ultron, Abomination, Mandarin, Mysterio, Alexander Pierce, Ghost, Killmonger, Ironmonger, Whiplash, Red Skull, the Mandarin again, Baron Zemo, Yellow Jacket, Ronan, Hela, Dormammu, Darky Elf Guy, Icarus, and whoever the hell Jude Law was supposed to be in Captain Marvel. None of them were accurate to the damn comics. Some of them maintain certain aspects of their characters, like Mysterio's visions and Thanos looking for the Infinity Stones. And they did the same thing with Taskmaster, having the character be a perfect mimic in action. So, I'm sorry, but that is a completely invalid argument to have against an MCU film at this point. You can pretty much call inaccurate villains an MCU calling card by now. So, I really don't care. I loved Black Widow, and for me, it's one of the best films in the MCU. And at number 3 is Dune, the newest offering from Denis Villeneuve, who I am convinced is incapable of making a bad movie at this point. Sicario, Prisoners, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, this man is an absolute genius behind the camera, and this year he brought that genius to his adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune. The planet Arrakis has never looked so beautiful. Villeneuve has crafted a brilliant, masterclass adaptation of the source material, with engaging sets, intense atmosphere, and top-notch performances all around. Timothée Chalamet is great in the lead. Oscar Isaac and Jason Momoa are both wonderful. And yes, I know everyone's praising Zendaya, and while she is good, she's only in the film for about 10 minutes. I mean, come on, guys, there's a lot of other things to love about this damn movie. The brilliant score, the top-notch cinematography. A lot of people have complained that the film ends abruptly, but as someone who has read Dune and knows the story, I know that this is only part 1 of a much larger tale. Personally, I can't wait for part 2. Yes, as much as I love Black Widow as a spy thriller, it still couldn't beat No Time to Die. I don't think they could have had Daniel Craig's James Bond go out on a more satisfying note. After the colossal disappointment that was Spectre, I was praying No Time to Die would finally give Daniel Craig the send-off he deserved. Thankfully, that's what I got. Yeah, Spectre is still terrible, but 4 out of 5 good films ain't bad. Hell, for a James Bond actor, I'm pretty sure that's a record. The action in the film was flawless, some of the best action in any Bond movie. There was one particular chase scene in France that just had me on the edge of my seat. Rami Malek continues to show why he's such a sought-after actor in Hollywood, playing the villain Safin. A huge step up from Daddy Issues Blofeld, and one of the best villains of the Craig era. Much like Silva in Skyfall, he's a villain you understand and can sympathize with. He has just as much hatred for Spectre as Bond does, and you understand why he's doing what he's doing. Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond actor, and his scenes with Léa Seydoux, I hope I'm pronouncing her damn last name right, they were just beautiful. They managed to evolve both characters and their relationship in ways that I was not expecting. This movie was not against throwing curveballs and doing things differently than other Bond movies. Hell, there's one particular moment between James Bond and Felix Leiter that had me on the verge of tears. It was just a beautifully done scene, and both Daniel Craig and Jeffrey Wright sold it perfectly. No Time to Die represents one of the best Bond films ever made, and an absolutely beautiful and poignant send-off to Daniel Craig's James Bond as a character. So many films were delayed because of the pandemic, and this was one that was just well worth the damn wait. Yes, I dare to put Zack Snyder's masterpiece at number 1. Look, I remember when this was first announced to actually be coming out. I was still living with Rob at the time, and he called me into his room and read off the news to me. I actually started to tear up a bit, just out of sheer joy, knowing that this man would finally get to show his vision for the film, and that we could finally see it. And let me explain something. Had this just been some normal, run-of-the-mill director's cut, this would not be on the list. I wouldn't even include it as a 2021 film if it was only that. However, not only was this the most satisfying film experience I had all year, it is without a doubt one of the best comic book movies ever made. This movie and the bastardized cut of it that was released in 2017 are not the same movie. Not by a long shot. Unlike that film, this movie has depth. It has themes. It has action that's worth the damn. It has character development. It has character motivation. It has a score that doesn't suck balls. It has Flash being an actual hero instead of a side douche. It has Cyborg being an actual fully developed character instead of an aggravating plot device. Literally, every fucking decision Zack Snyder made for this movie was better than what the studio wanted. It absolutely baffles me that the studio had this masterwork on their hands and decided to cut it up and bastardize it to no end, to the point where it wasn't even the same movie anymore. Personally, I'm glad this movie exists, and I'm glad that Zack Snyder has finally gotten some fucking redemption after all this time. He made a wonderful movie, an absolutely gorgeous spectacle that delved deep into the mythos of DC and its characters. All their development has finally been restored to its glory, and I couldn't be happier. This should honestly just be a lesson to the studios to stop meddling in shit. Listen, I know I won't get a sequel to this. I know the Snyderverse won't be restored, no matter how much I may want it to be. But this was a truly remarkable Justice League movie that I could continue to watch and never be bored with. It was a damn near flawless experience and is easily my favorite film of 2021. So folks, that does it for my best of the year. What were your favorites though? Please let me know in the comments, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more.